Greetings everyone and welcome back to T2's Book Club. I'm going to review 2 books today, and actually I'm going to review 3, but in this video I'm going to review these 2 books here. Stephen King's Finders Keepers and End of Watch. This is the Bill Hodges trilogy, book 2 and 3. If you saw my other video about Mr. Mercedes, which I consider one of, I would say that's Stephen King's masterpiece of the current era. I mean, that was just a flawless book. I really liked how it was like a big paperback too. And I realized that these 2 books both come in that same size paperback, so I wish I'd had those copies. But these are like really pristine condition, mass market paperback. But, so you might remember me talking about like the TV show. I've been keeping up. I'm on season 2 now. I'm almost at the end of it. And I was wondering if Mr. Mercedes was season 1 and then this was season 2 and this was season 3. But it looks like this is season 2. And then they've kind of added a bunch of new stuff and changed a lot of the things in it. And boy, I don't know if this is going to be season 3 or season 3 will be like just with this story continued on, because this is kind of a separate deal from this one. I was kind of surprised. This one I really liked. I think it's as good as the first one, but it's a totally different story. It kind of like stands alone on its own. This one continues the first story, because Brady Hartsfield was the murderer who ran over the people in the first book. And in this one, he's like waking up from a coma, but he's not really, he's still like a paraplegic. Not really, he's still like locked into his own brain, but he can like use these iPad things called Zappets, and he can control people and make them kill for him. And he kind of has this superpower from this drug that the doctor's been giving him to kind of wake him up. And there's a whole deal with this Japanese or Chinese company, with this drug company that's like in the TV show. All that really, I didn't really care that much for that. But this was really interesting stuff. But it's kind of unbelievable. It's kind of like a little far out there. More like the kind of stuff Stephen King normally writes, rather than the first book was kind of more of a detective novel. But better than normal detective novels that you do. Like, if you don't really like detective novels, you would still like Mr. Mercedes. But this is more like a regular Stephen King book. And I really like this character, Holly Gibney. She's like the really neurotic, kind of a weirdo. She's the sister. I really like her, I think it's her aunt or her cousin that died in the first book. Janie, she was a really good character, but they killed her off. But then Holly Gibney's a really good character. The actress in the TV show that plays her is fucking amazing. But, yeah. How did this one end? Can't remember how it ended. I'm not really sure how the TV show is going to go. I'm really hoping it's this. But if it's not, this needs to be its own TV show. So Finders Keepers, it's like another masterpiece. This is like, there's a character, there's this kid who finds this locked box, or what's it called? Like a chest of, okay, so it starts out way in the past. There's this writer. He's a really famous writer. I thought they were comparing him to like J.D. Salinger, because he like wrote these 3 books that were really famous, called The Runner and The Runner Slows Down was the third one. What was the second one called? The Runner. I don't remember. It's been a while since I read these. I always review these like a little after. So, Runner Slows Down was the third one. Anyway, it's about this guy, Jimmy Gold, and it's kind of like this famous story that like you would read in like high school and stuff. So people get really obsessed with it, and they want to know, like in the third book, how did the first one go? The first one was kind of like Forrest Gumpish, kind of like this classical character, kind of like in Catcher in the Rye, that guy. And then the second book was kind of like Vietnam, and he kind of comes to terms with life and death and stuff. I mean, this is kind of how they describe it in the book. There's not like, I didn't read extra books, but the third book, everybody was disappointed because it was kind of like Mad Men. Like, he gets into advertising and commercial stuff, and everybody thinks he kind of sold out. So they were really disappointed with it, and like the guy that gets obsessed with him really hates the author for making him turn out to be this weird, like everyday character. He's like not a hero anymore. He's just some schlub who sold out to become like a mass marketing advertising guy. So he hates the guy, and he goes and like he kills him, and he takes his safe. He has like $20,000. I think it might have been 70. I think it was $20,000, and all these leather-bound notebooks that has the fourth and the fifth books in it. But he doesn't really know that. He just knows it's like a bunch of notebooks where he wrote more stuff after he quit writing. So it's like this treasure that they're so into these books that if they knew there was a fourth and fifth book, imagine if George R.R. Martin wrote the final Game of Thrones book, but he wrote it all in little notebooks and he never gave it to anybody. And he just put it in a safe and like retired. Never released it. And somebody went and murdered him and stole it. That would be worth like $50 million. That's what they came to in this book. They think it'd be worth like $50 million for these. He had like some poetry and some other books, I think, and these two final books of this the John Rothstein books of Jimmy Gold. So, this guy, he has these two partners. They kill him, they take his stuff, they put it in a box, they bury it next to a river under a tree trunk. That's why it's like stuck into this. See, that's supposed to be a tree. But I think this is actually the roots. I think it's like this. Because it looks more like roots than limbs. And it was kind of like stuck into the roots. Really cool cover. And the guy that killed him, he kills his two partners. He doesn't get in trouble for the murder of the guy or the murder of his two partners. He gets in trouble for raping a woman or something that he didn't really do. Or I guess he did do it, but I don't remember how it worked out. But like, he went to prison. He got fucking butt raped in prison a lot, and he was there for like till he was 65 or 70 years old. He finally gets out. This other kid finds this treasure of this guy's writings, and he was also a fan of John Rothstein, I think, or he studied him in school, and he got into it after he found all this stuff. And he was like having arguments with his professor about like the Jimmy Gold character, and his professor's saying like, how are you coming to these conclusions? Because he doesn't realize this kid's read more than he has, because he's got access to the fourth and the fifth book. So, like, the guy gets out of jail finally because this woman finally let it go. She kept, like, keeping him in prison. So he comes after this kid who has all of his books, and there's all this, like, intrigue about hiding him. Like, it's not like the first book, the Mr. Mercedes, where you got a bad guy and a good guy, and it swaps perspectives all the time. You get to see both sides of it. This one is more the kid and the murderer. So then, see, this is a Bill Hodges book, which is the detective from Mr. Mercedes. He doesn't really come into the story until over halfway through, which is fine. I mean, you probably didn't even need the Bill Hodges detective stuff in this. They just kind of came along at the end and kind of saved his life, sort of, but you probably could have wrote it without that. That's why I say it could have been a standalone book on its own. It wouldn't have to have been part of this Bill Hodges trilogy. So I don't know if they're going to use it in the third season of the TV show, or they did, because it's already out. So I'm kind of wondering about that. But yeah, this one, it's really weird how they did it. Like these iPads, they have this fishing game, and it has this really hypnotic music, and it kind of reminds me of like Super Black Bass for Super NES, like the music, and like it hypnotizes people and it lets Brady Hartsfield get into their brains, like take control of them psychically. And like I said, there's more stuff with his partner that he used to work with on the TV show, the red-haired chick. She's not really in the book that much, but in the TV show, she's like an integral part of the story. Yeah, there's it's a website thing. I guess there's enough stuff that they could do another season, because the TV show kind of went along real slow, and now it's starting to get kind of good again. It was kind of dragging along. Yeah, he's trying to like send out these iPads to everybody and like make a bunch of people commit suicide that he didn't get to kill in the first book. I think I reviewed Mr. Mercedes before I was done with it. Is that right? And like the wheelchair, he was going to blow up this whole boy band concert with this explosive device under his wheelchair. And like in the TV show, he stabs his partner he used to work with at his computer repair place. He didn't do that in the book. In the book, Holly Gibney whacks him with this sack of steel ball bearings, a happy slapper. But in the TV show, she used like this bulldog, which kind of represented Bill Hodges, and smacked him over the head with that. And yeah, so he's trying to kill all the people that he didn't kill at the concert, like the kids that were there. Like he's giving it to them for missing the concert, like a free iPad or something. I don't know. Really good story. 10 out of 10. Both these books are highly recommendable. But this one especially, and it's kind of its own story. This one, little bit out there, a little bit unbelievable, but still pretty good story.